Fal Ol-Ron was a Beggar's Guild member in good standing. He was a mutterer, and a good one. He would walk behind people, muttering in his own private language until they gave him money not to. People thought he was mad, but this was not technically the case. It was just that he was in touch with reality on the cosmic level, and had a bit of trouble focusing on things smaller, like other people, walls, and soap. Although on very small things such as coins, his eyesight was grade A. Therefore, he was not surprised when a handsome young woman streaked past him and removed all her clothes. This sort of thing happened all the time, although up until now, only on the inner side of his head. Then he saw what happened next. He watched as the sleek golden shape streaked away.
I told him,
he said.
I'll give him the wrong end of a ragman's trumpet, so I shall. Millennium Hand and Shrimp, I told him.
Gaspode wagged what was technically a tail when Angua re-emerged.
Change it to something more suitable,
he said, his voice slightly muffled by the bone.
Go on. I brought you this little token.
He dropped it on the cobbles. It didn't look any better to Angua's lupine eyes. What for? She said.
Stuffed with nourishing marrowbone jelly, that bone,
he said accusingly. Forget it, said Angua. Now, how do you normally get into the Assassin's Guild?
And maybe afterwards we could kind of hang out in the middens along Feedry Road,
said Gaspode, his stump of a tail still thumping the ground.
There's rats along there they'll make your hair stand on. No, all right, forget I mentioned it.
He finished quickly when fire flashed for a moment in Angua's eyes. He sighed.
There's a drain by the kitchens,
he said. Big enough for a human?
Not even for a dwarf, but it won't be worth it. It's spaghetti tonight. You don't get many bones in spaghetti.
Come on. He limped along.
That was a good bone, he said. Hardly even started going green. Ha! I bet you wouldn't say no to a box of chocolates from Mr. Hunk, though.
He cringed as she rounded on him. What are you talking about?
Nothing.
He trailed after her, whining. Angua wasn't happy either. It was always a problem, growing hair and fangs every full moon. Just when she thought she'd been lucky before, she'd found that few men are happy in a relationship where their partner grows hair and howls. She'd sworn, no more entanglements like that. As for Gaspode, he was resigning himself to a life without love, or at least any more than the practical affection experienced so far, which had consisted of an unsuspecting chihuahua and a brief liaison with a postman's leg. Elsewhere, the No. 1 powder slid down the folded paper into the metal tube. Blast Fimes. Who'd have thought he'd actually head for the opera house? He'd lost a set of tubes up there, but there were still 3 left, packed neatly in the hollow stock. A pack of No. 1 powder and a rudimentary knowledge of lead casting was all a man needed to rule the city. The gone lay on the table. There was a bluish sheen to the metal, or perhaps not so much a sheen as a glisten. And of course that was only the oil. You had to believe it was only the oil. It was clearly a thing of metal. It couldn't possibly be alive. And yet, they say it was only a beggar girl in the guild.
Well, what of it? She was a target of opportunity. That was not my fault. That was your fault. I am merely the gone. Gones don't kill people. People kill people.
You killed Hammerhawk. The boy said you fired yourself, and he'd repaired you.
You expect gratitude? He would have made another gone.
Was that a reason to kill him?
Certainly. You have no understanding.
Was the voice in his head, or in the gone? He couldn't be certain. Edward had said there was a voice. It said that everything you wanted, it could give you. Elsewhere, getting into the guild was easy for Angua, even through the angry crowds. Some of the assassins The ones from noble homes that had big floppy dogs around the place in the same way that lesser folk have rugs had brought a few with them. Besides, Angua was pure pedigree. She drew admiring glances as she trotted through the buildings. Finding the right corridor was easy too. She'd remembered the view from the guild next door and counted the number of floors. In any case, she didn't have to look hard. The reek of fireworks hung in the air all along the corridor. There was a crowd of assassins in the corridor too. The door of the room had been forced open. As Angua peered around the corner, she saw Dr. Crucius emerge, his face suffused with rage.
Mr. Downey?
A white-haired assassin drew himself to attention.
Sir? I want him found.
Yes, Doctor.
In fact, I want him inhumed with extreme impoliteness, and I'm setting the fee at $10,000. I shall pay it personally, you understand, without guild tax either.
Several assassins nonchalantly strolled away from the crowd. 10,000 untaxed dollars was good money. Downey looked uncomfortable. Doctor, I think...
Think? You're not paid to think. Heaven knows where the idiot has got to. I ordered the guild search. Why didn't anyone force the door?
Sorry, Doctor. Edward left us weeks ago, and I didn't think...
You didn't think? What are you paid for?
Never seen him in such a temper,
said Gaspode. There was a cough behind the chief assassin. Dr. Whiteface had emerged from the room.
Ah, Doctor, said Dr. Crucius. I think perhaps we'll go and discuss this further in my study, yes?
I really am most terribly sorry, my lord. Don't mention it. The little devil has made us both look like fools. Oh, nothing personal, of course. Mr. Downey, the fools and the assassins will be guarding this hole until we can get some masons in tomorrow. No one is to go through, you understand?
Yes, Doctor.
Very well.
That's Mr. Downey,
said Gaspode, as Dr. Crucius and the chief clown disappeared down the corridor.
Number 2 in the assassins.
He scratched his ear.
He'd knock off old Crucius for tuppence if it wasn't against the rules.
Angua trotted forward. Downey, who was wiping his forehead with a black handkerchief, looked down. Hello, you're new, he said. He glanced at Gaspode. And the mutt's back, I see.
Wuff wuff,
said Gaspode, his stump of a tail thumping the floor.
Incidentally,
he added for Angua's benefit,
he's often good for a peppermint if you catch him in the right mood. He's poisoned 15 people this year. He's almost as good with poisons as old Crucius.
Do I need to know that? Said Angua. Downey patted her on the head.
Oh, assassins shouldn't kill unless they're being paid. It's these little tips that make all the difference.
Now Angua was in a position to see the door. There was a name written on a piece of card stuck in a metal bracket. Edward Dieth. Edward Dieth, she said.
There's a name that tolls a bell, said Gaspode. Family used to live up Kingsway. Used to be as rich as Creosote.
Who is Creosote?
Some foreign bugger who was rich.
Oh.
But great-granddad had a terrible thirst. And granddad chased anything in a dress. His dress, you understand. And old Dieth, well, he was sober and clean, but lost the rest of the family money on account of having a blind spot when it came to telling the difference between a 1 and an 11.
I can't see how that loses you money.
It does if you think you can play Cripple Mr. Onion with the big boys.
The werewolf and the dog padded back down the corridor. Do you know anything about Master Edward? Said Angua.
Nope. The house was flogged off recently. Family debts. Haven't seen him around.
You're certainly a mine of information, she said.
I gets around. No one notices dogs.
Gaspode wrinkled his nose. It looked like a withered truffle.
Blimey, stinks of gone, doesn't it?
Yes. Something odd about that, said Angua.
What?
Something not right. There were other smells. Unwashed socks, other dogs, Dr. Whiteface's grease paint, yesterday's dinner. The scents filled the air, but the fireworks smell of what Angua was now automatically thinking of as the gone wound around everything else, acrid as acid.
Well, that's not right.
Don't know. Maybe it's the gone smell.
Nah, that started off here. The gone was kept here for years.
Right. Okay. Well, we've got a name. It might mean something to Carrot. Angua trotted down the stairs.
Excuse me,
said Gaspode. Yes?
How can you turn back into a woman again?
I just get out the moonlight and concentrate. That's how it works.
Or, that's all?
If it's technically full moon, I can change even during the day if I want to. I only have to change when I'm in the moonlight.
Get away! What about wolfbane?
Wolfbane? It's a plant, a type of aconite, I think. What about it?
Don't it kill you?
Look, you don't have to believe everything you hear about werewolves. We're human, just like everyone else. Most of the time, she added. By now they were outside the guild and heading for the alley, which indeed they reached, but it lacked certain important features that it had included when they were last there. Most notably of these was Angua's uniform, but there was also a world shortage of foul old Ron. Damn. They looked at the empty patch of mud.
Got any other clothes? Said Gaspode.
Yes, but only back in Elm Street. This is my only uniform.
You have to put some clothes on when you're human?
Yes.
Why? I would have thought a nude woman would be at home in any company. No offense meant.
I prefer clothes. Gaspode sniffed at the dirt.
Come on then, he sighed. We better catch up foul old Ron before your chainmail becomes a bottle of bear huggers, yes?
Angua looked around. The scent of foul old Ron was practically tangible. All right, but let's be quick about it. Wolfbane? You didn't need daft old herbs to make your life a problem if you spent 1 week every month with 2 extra legs and 4 extra nipples.